Do you want to fully understand the Trial of the Crusader loot system? From tribute chests to Crusader orbs, I've got you covered with the most complete information, including all the brand new changes. I'll also cover who should get the tier sets and the insane 272 cloaks. Plus, we'll talk about why you need to plan now so you don't waste hours of time farming the wrong gear. Okay, so on June 22nd, we're getting a brand new raid with 4 different modes. The 10-man normal drops 232 gear, while 25 normal drops 245 gear. Then heroic 10s will drop 245 gear, while heroic 25s drop 258. In a brand new change, you can actually switch between heroic and normal per boss, which will be great for progression. For example, your Pug 10-man group could do easier fights like Northrend Beast in heroic mode. Then they could swap to normal for Twin Valkyrs and Anubarak, which are a lot harder. It's also very important to note that heroic mode will be available day 1. This is a new change, and it means you don't need to do a normal 25 to unlock the best possible loot. The key thing for non-tier loot is that your entire guild should have their BIS list submitted in advance. The ultimate mistake would be giving a 258 piece like a chest to your Death Knight that plans to get the 4 set of tier 9.5. On top of the typical boss gear, you'll also be getting Emblems of Triumph from every boss. In 25-man, I got 25 emblems, while you can expect 20 from 10-man mode. Emblems of Triumph can be used to purchase 232 item level tier 9 gear. There are actually 3 separate tier 9 sets for each spec. There's the 232, the 245, and the 258. These all share the same set bonuses, so rushing even the 232 on some classes can be worth it depending on set bonuses. That being said, you really don't want to waste emblems. The efficient way to decide what 232 pieces to get is to plan with your guild in advance. On the planning side of things, to get your 4 set of tier 9 will cost 160 to 180 emblems. This will of course depend on which pieces you buy. You can gain 104 emblems per week, so you can expect your full 4 set in 2 weeks. But before you buy anything, you really need to know in advance if you're getting any of the higher item level pieces in the first week. If you know you're going to end up with a 245 chest the first week, you don't want to end up with a worthless duplicate 232 item. But 232 is barely an upgrade for most players, so what about the higher item level sets? Well, there's also the tier 9.25 gear, which is 245 item level. This costs exactly 1.5 times more than the 232 gear. That means it'll cost 240 to 270 emblems depending on the pieces you buy for the 4 set. You'll need 1 trophy of the Crusade per piece as well. Previously, 5 trophies of the Crusade dropped per boss, but this just wasn't enough with the new lockout restrictions. So now Blizzard is giving us an additional trophy per boss, so we can get 10 per raid. Moving into the 258 tier 9.5 gear, this can only be obtained from the tribute chest at the end of the hard mode 25 raids. The tribute chest is a new loot system that rewards you based on how many attempts remaining out of 50 you have at the end of the raid. If you can complete the raid with 1 or more attempts remaining, you'll get 2 Regalias in the 25-man or trophies of the Crusade in 10. Then with at least 25 remaining attempts, you'll get the Regalias on top of a bonus weapon. With 45 or more attempts remaining, you'll get 2 bonus Regalias or trophies as well. But the main goal is to do the whole raid with 50 attempts remaining or 0 wipes. My guild was able to clear with 0 wipes, so we got the maximum loot from the chest. Inside our chest was the 272 physical DPS cloak. We also got the Fleshrender weapon and 4 Regalias. So going back to the cloaks for a second, the 258 item level cape comes from the 10-man heroic. And then of course there's the 272 item level cape, which is from 25-man heroic. These capes are BIS for literally everyone, but the difference between the 10 and 25 capes is pretty minimal. That means you should be hitting both the 10 and 25-man lockouts as much as you can for your guild. Tanks and scaling DPS like Affliction locks should be first in line for the cloaks. We also need to get back to the Regalias we mentioned earlier. Regalias are the tier tokens locked to a specific set of classes, but they're not slot locked. If I'm lucky enough to grab 4 Regalias for my Druid week 1, I can immediately step outside and cash them in for my 4 set. That means planning out your trophy and Regalia distribution is very important. On top of all the loot we've already talked about, there are also Crusader orbs to consider. Crusader orbs drop from 10-man heroic as well as the 25-man raids. These orbs can be used to craft 245 item level gear, just like runed orbs. All of this crafted gear is top 3 BIS for your spec right now, so it shouldn't be dismissed. You should prioritize Crusader orbs for slots where your big DPS dealers are missing pieces. Let's take a mage that doesn't have Grasp of Reason. You could use your guild bank to buy the Bejeweled Wizard Bracers recipe day 1 to min-max gear. And speaking of planning and min-maxing with your guild, we need to talk about split runs. Since I've joined a speedrunning guild, I've really started to see the value of split runs in Trial of the Crusader. The tier gear is just too limited and the raid is only 40 minutes long. If you're part of a relatively serious guild, I can highly recommend starting a 2nd or a 3rd raid group. Even if it's just for this patch, it'll really amp up your gear acquisition. We actually will have 3 separate raid groups and they're designed to rush loot to specific guild members in each raid. You, on the other hand, still have time to rush more alts to level 80 to get the most out of Phase 3. Check out my Phase 3 Joyous Journey speed leveling tips guide full of strategies to make your leveling twice as fast.